ladies and gentlemen, as we talk about building infrastructure, if we see till now, whenever we have built infrastructure, we have been really unmindful of the communities in and communities for which the infrastructure has been built. And nor our infrastructure has reflected or respected the realities of this finite planet. But now that these realities have started sinking in, we do see a lot of thrust, a lot of focus on sustainable infrastructure development. The need today is for rethinking. The need today is for restructuring and reimagining these structures and systems for transportation, food, water, energy, waste, for information, and have the sustainability factor factored in. So I would like to, in fact, now invite Mr. Vijay Karia, the Chairman and Managing Director of Ravin Group, for his opening remarks. Please join me as I invite Mr. Karia now to address us all. Thank you.
The objective of infrastructure is to improve the quality of life and business. Also, infrastructure all needs to converge into a mainstream. Somewhere you just cannot have infrastructure in isolation. And infrastructure in isolation just does not mean infrastructure in certain segments of the country. But it also means that if you have an airport standing at Delhi or at Mumbai, you need to have well-built support systems for it. I think construction segment, and like if you see the telephone segment where it has grown by leaps and bounds, is only because of technology. Construction segment needs to grow by leaps and bounds on basis of technology. Why should it take in India 5 years' time to build a bridge of 500-meter length? So many parts of the world are building it in 45 days' time. Now, the common man wants improved standard of living. Healthcare is a new area of infrastructure in India. And we are yet stuck in that old quagmire where we don't know whether to build new roads, whether to build new railways, whether to build new ports, or to build a Swachh Bharat, a Digital Bharat, a Make in India. Where technology has grown and become cheaper, growth has come. Where it has not changed much, we are stuck. Buildings, construction is one such area. Roads and the quality of roads is another such area. So, we need to use infrastructure to spur growth. We need to use the public-private participation very strongly to spur the infrastructure growth. And it is very important that the infrastructure segment grows at a far faster pace than what people are anticipating. The next growth of infrastructure will not come from the biggies. The next growth will come from smaller players. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And now I would like to invite here Mr. Raghav Chandra, the Chairman of the National Highways Association of India. We have the keynote address, and I would like to invite Mr. Raghav Chandra.
Infrastructure, no doubt, is one of the main pillars of the competitiveness of any nation, and historically all those nations which have had good infrastructure have also been those that have had high growth rates.
The World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index in 2015 ranked our overall infrastructure at 71. However, there have been improvements, and today I'm happy to state that the World Bank Logistics Index has improved India's rank from 55 to 35, with a clear note that in the highway sector, a lot is happening, connectivity is improving, and it looks like India will be able to get its act together on the highways front. This is further demonstrated by the fact that the sales of construction equipment in the country today has gone up by about 35% over the previous year. Consumption of bitumen, which is largely used in the road sector, has gone up by about 35%. Cement, which we are trying to use to a large extent in our highways, sales has gone up by more than 6%, and so has steel sales. One area which has been neglected historically is highway management. Because the deficit in highway construction was so large, like a hungry man, our emphasis has been entirely towards completing this historical deficit of road construction. But today, thankfully, I have been able to change the focus from merely construction of highways to management of highways. So in the days to come, there is going to be a lot of traction on the highway network. There's a lot of deficit which is going to be removed, and I'm indeed hopeful that we shall be able to do the nation proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for introducing us to various initiatives and measures which are being taken by NHAI. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have the panel discussion. This is on mapping mandate and planning for inclusive infrastructure.
Maybe starting with Sudhir, what really is inclusive infrastructure according to you?
The issue lies in planning. How do we plan our things? Have we thought about the entire sector, entire world? As you said at the start, is Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas. This is the best, one of the best slogan I have heard. I don't know how much is going to get implemented. For me, prosperity of all is what I mean to say is the inclusive infrastructure, and which I can think some of the issues which can be discussed is limited skills and training, better information flow, then some more spending on R&D.
Mr. Karia, what is inclusive infrastructure? I think you did a good address, but maybe anything you want to add to it in a minute or so?
Inclusive can mean, as aptly coined, Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas. That means we are talking about infrastructure reaching down to the common man, to the lowest strata of society. This is one definition of inclusive, and I think it's a given that inclusive has to reach down to the lowest, or to every citizen across the country. I don't think there's any doubt on that. Inclusive can also mean taking in various segments and putting them together.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Ajpal. I'll just come back to you in a minute. Maybe I'll just first go to the other side and talk about the financing. How does financing change, infrastructure financing change with inclusive infrastructure? Maybe Suresh, if you can just throw some light on that.
I think it's a pretty interesting topic because as far as infrastructure is concerned, it has to be inclusive. Yes. Because by very basic definition of infrastructure, it's got to be inclusive. It got to be available to all. It's got to be affordable, and it should not have restrictions for it, or certain set of exclusions built around it. You know, we tend to have a very narrow definition of infrastructure itself. We somehow tend to think in very broad 2-3 buckets of power in roads and stuff. But I think the way we look at it, and at Macquarie we are the largest fund managers and asset managers of infrastructure around the world, for us anything which generates sustainable cash flows, touches a lot of people in the community, serves them for a longer period, has a regulatory oversight but does not depend too much upon the government for its sustenance, can be classified as infrastructure.
Oh, good. I think well said. This is a very good perspective that's really come in. I'll just ask Mr. Chandra, how do you really plan for these new centers of development that will happen, the city versus the rural connectivity which is happening?
How we plan to move forward, connecting cities, etc., is that it's certainly a large part of our program. Today, it is driven because of specific demand, and to ensure that all smart cities are connected, to ensure that all important cities which have economic value in terms of commercial transport and freight, that they are not only connected, but that the throughput of the road should be improved. So planning of both the urban area, the town area, the governance systems of the urban area, the governance systems of the smaller cities, that is very, very important to develop holistically, to have a complete picture on what is, which will, so that everything can mesh together very seamlessly.
Maybe I can just ask Nikhil, I know that he's been involved with the smart city planning part and the financing part. But the whole city urban development has to have a planning from a holistic manner, including citizens' participation coming in. So in a way, do we say that that's a good example or a great example of planning?
Thanks, Samir. Specifically on the Smart Cities mission, I think the way the mission was structured from a planning perspective, I think it was bang on, because obviously when we're talking about inclusive infrastructure, the first thing that the Smart City mission said, or the ministerial guidelines when the mission was introduced said was that please involve the citizens and ask them what is it that they need. So that is step number one. So I think that is where it started off. So it was not exactly a triple P, it was maybe a double P, which is public-private people participation or public-private people partnership. So I think to that extent it was one excellent step. But fundamentally, and I think the last but not the least, the most important part about this mission again is that the grant is released basis progress.
Well, I think well said. I think that's very important. Coming to you, Mr. Rajpal, I think we talked about smart city, and I would love to really continue that discussion around smart city as one of the good examples. But from your perspective, from the energy side, power side, I think that's one of the biggest, I think, challenges at this point of time.
For the renewables, the target is to get 175 gigabytes of renewable, and the main challenge is how to integrate the green renewable energy in the grid, because it is not, regular flow is not there, it is intermittent. For that we need to have robust grid, and sometimes we need to back out the conventional back sources also. And secondly, the transmission charges on the renewables are also in the new tariff policy. There's concessions are there.
Thank you very much, all of you all, for the more than an hour of a good quality discussion, and thanks for being such a good audience.
Brought to you by ETH.
सबसे तोतली खुशी मिली नहीं अभी तक, सबसे भोली मुस्कान खिली नहीं अभी तक। ख्वाब करो आजाद खोलो खुशी, अनबॉक्स जिंदगी, अनबॉक्स जिंदगी, अनबॉक्स जिंदगी। ख्वाब करो आजाद खोलो खुशी, अनबॉक्स जिंदगी, अनबॉक्स जिंदगी, अनबॉक्स जिंदगी।
इस दिवाली सिर्फ बक्से नहीं, खुशियां खोलो। स्नैपडील, अनबॉक्स जिंदगी।
और सोनू, याद रखना हाथ मुंह बम। ये हाथ मुंह बम, हाथ मुंह बम, नाचम कूदम तेजी जाओ, हाथ मुंह बम, हाथ मुंह बम।
अरे क्या है ये हाथ मुंह बम?
बीमारी से बचने का तरीका।
कैसे?
हाथ खाने से पहले साबुन से धोएंगे, मुंह पिएंगे, प्योरिफाइड पानी पिएंगे, बम साफ टॉयलेट में शौच करेंगे।
गुड हैबिट।
हाथ मुंह बम, बीमारी होगी कम।
हिंदुस्तान यूनिलीवर की पहल।
Digital transformation today is the new paradigm for India to thrive in a global arena. Harnessing diverse technologies are imperative for the nation to come of digital age. Hitachi, in partnership with Times Network, organized the Hitachi Social Innovation Forum 2016.
The digital highways and digital roads to the cities and towns and villages have capacity to transform overnight, to change the life of people.
We are proudly say we are meeting all the Prime Minister Modi's initiative of Making India and Digital India and Skill India.
This episode shows highlights of the forum which brought together India's brightest minds to discuss the opportunities and challenges that come with digital transformation and explores how various digital technologies like mobile, social analytics and cloud computing are powering digital disruption.
The rise of consumerism is forcing organizations across all industries to change. So it's consumerism that's changing. And now it's all about smart enablement, and consumers are saying enable. And then I think it's also digital access, digital convenience, digital literacy, and digital competency.
Watch on ET Now.
We are going to be having a talk on infrastructure imperatives for implementation. And really glad that we have Mr. Y.M. Deosthali, the chairman of L&T Finance Holdings, present with us. We look forward to your views and your thoughts.
In my opinion, the root cause of most implementation bottlenecks that have hindered progress on infrastructure development initiative has been lack of cooperation, coordination, or togetherness between all agencies involved. When we are talking of infrastructure projects of any kind, be it road, be it port, be it railway, metro rail, or any kind, I think this preparatory work by all agencies in a coordinated manner is a must. And all agencies need to sit together at the beginning. How many approvals are required? What is the time frame within this approval is required to be required? If you want smooth implementation, if you want the people who are investing in the project not to suffer, then a coordinated approach by all is absolutely essential. Thank you very much once again for calling me.
We are all aware that as a country how important it is for us to develop our physical infrastructure, and we also know how much the government is trying to put that in place. But building infrastructure, we have to be aware of the several impacts that it brings in terms of construction of the physical infrastructure. Normally, when we think of building physical infrastructure, the first thought that comes to our mind is concrete and steel. And while concrete and steel are very, very important for building physical infrastructure, but there are other alternative ways of building sustainable and innovative infrastructure. Then there is a general depletion of natural resources, which makes it difficult for us to construct at the pace at which we want. A high or an increase in carbon emission is, of course, impacting the climate, and we must have read in the newspapers that we are about to sign as a country the Climate Pact, and that would, in any case, bring on us the responsibility, each one of us, individually or collectively, to try and support our government to be able to use methods or technologies which can support the reduction of carbon emissions.
The issues that mega projects are facing now, how does one analyze the project complexity in a mega project? What would be the right strategy for future preparation, including risk mitigation and adaptation, better planning, how to manage timelines, how to manage cost overrun, and what are the policies and reforms for executing mega projects, particularly in the PPP sector. And may I request to begin with Mr. Sen, who is having a fund of experience and knowledge to advise, to give his view. Mr. Sen, how do we analyze a project, a mega project? How do we should analyze so that we do not miss on the essentials And we find a lot of projects get stuck at some point or the other before completion, after launch.
You see, this L&T has handled several mega projects in the future. So the mega project has got huge risks. I mean, risks cannot be really estimated at the beginning of the project when you are going to submit a bid for getting the project at the tender time. It's not possible also by anybody to assess this risk. Also, you have to understand that if I am bidding for a lump sum turnkey EPC contract, then if we don't get enough time before the bid to prepare our tender estimate and all that, we can't give a proper value. Here the risks are to be shared. If the risks, the construction related risks, which is purely as I go to the site and face different geological conditions or some kind of engineering diversions here and there, to that extent can be borne by us. Okay? But the entire gamut of risks of land acquisitions and delays in land in environmental clearances and other local issues cannot be really assessed by us. So in these cases, all successful mega projects, if you see, the general story of success is that the client really gave ample cover to the contractor for assessing, for the risks to be shared.
Mr. Dhingra, that on what Mr. Sen said about risk, which is very critical, and Bombardier took a big risk, if I can say, of setting up manufacturing unit in India. And when the market was not so very well defined, and at least market was not monolithic, there were splinter orders, and then you could not, and everybody were keen to get global competition. For a small order also global competition, and you cannot make 20 types of products in the same, So how did you analyze the risk issue of this kind?
Dr. Krishna, one of the advantage Bombardier had was that when we set up this factory in India for setting up the rolling stock, we had taken the contract for Delhi Metro. Delhi Metro is one organization which has successfully executed the phase 1 of the project. So obviously that confidence was there with us that the phase 2 of the project for which we were setting up the factory, that also will meet the timelines. As Mr. Sen mentioned, the risk normally the contractor carries is the cost overrun because of the project delays or the timelines which is affected because of not getting the land on time. Yeah. Fortunately for us, for the project which we handled for Delhi Metro, we started doing supplying during 2008 and we completed the supply during 2010. But the next question comes is whether all the metro projects will follow the Delhi Metro type of success story or will there be any difference?
Exactly.
So what we have seen is subsequent to the execution strategy which was adopted by Delhi Metro, all other metros we have seen is there has been delay ranging from 6 months to 3 years. And I will not blame the employer for that. There are certain factors which comes into it, whether the land is available on time or there is a political pressure that the contracts are finalized early irrespective of the factor that the land is available. So if you see Bangalore, Chennai, Calcutta, all the projects are delayed by 2 to 3 years. Now the question that comes for a company which invests in India is, do we have a standard product available for these kind of market in India? Unfortunately, even today, means 14 years, means 2002, I think Rolling Stock started supplying in India for Delhi Metro. Even today, there is no standard product. So the question always remains that each and every metro goes for a small quantity with a different kind of a rolling stock or different kind of a system, which always create a challenge for a company like us.
That's a wonderful thing, sir. And may I now request Mr. Thakur that, the issue of cost overrun, which is a bane of all mega projects. Cost overrun is bad for anybody and every small project, but for mega projects, it is like a killer. But Panch Lloyd is one of the examples which has, by and large, managed the issue very well, I would say. And what is the strategy you have adopted and what would you recommend for others learning from your successes and where you wish you could have done differently? What would you like?
If you look at the cost overrun data available for the mega projects, big size projects, infrastructure projects, the data says that around 16% projects are on time. 16 to 17 projects are on time. 41% projects are delayed. And around 43% projects
do not have any light means commissioning date is not known or input is not known. So this is how the overall infrastructure projects are happening in the country. So the point is that why under these three categories, the projects where 16% success rate is there, what are the story behind this? This is one way we have to analyze. 43% projects where there is no light, we do not know when the project is to be commissioned, is it basically contractor's fault or it is basically developer faults? That is to be seen. And the projects which has been really delayed, project could have been brought to the schedules, around 41% which have not been brought to the schedules and projects are delayed. That could be this primarily basically everything being in the place beginning, and while going on the projects then in between probably you have derailed the projects. So these are three kind of situations. Typically the reasons for delay, if you say these, to make the project success right from beginning to the end, one need to be very, very careful from the design bidding stage itself. So in most of the projects we have seen that ill-conceived design, ill-formulated estimate, ill-formulated BOQ, that is coming during this
contract document.
Faulty contract documents, sure. And then while going for the executions, you find that these things are really bothering you. And then the estimate goes haywire. Now, the data also says there are two kinds of projects. One is the completely BOQ-based project. Other is the turnkey contract, where you have to design, engineer, and execute these projects. Interestingly, data says that the BOQ projects are getting more delayed because the contractors always has this tendency to increase the BOQ and the moment the quantity increases, rates are not settled, the contractual formalities are not completed, then projects starts getting delayed. One way, if it is the turnkey projects, it's your responsibility, you are careful, so projects may be delayed, but then the chances of getting delayed with respect to the BOQ-based contract is less.
Genius minds sharing their extraordinary saga of success.
You have to be very, very on your toes, to understand what could possibly impact the business, what could be the opportunities that are coming up.
With the economic activity picking up, there is a real interest in the SME sector.
What does it take to ride the tide and achieve stupendous success in one's entrepreneurial venture?
If you want to succeed in entrepreneurship, you have to have a set of good values.
Experiment, you have to have a process by which you encourage people to come up with ideas.
Watch inspiring stories of entrepreneurs who have pursued their passion and accomplished their business goals. Only on ET Now.
इस अपनेपन के रिश्ते को शुद्धता के साथ निखा रहा है ब्राह्मी, आंवला, भृंगराज, घृतकुमारी, जटामासी, मेहंदी व नाग केशर आदि बेशकीमती 21 जड़ी बूटियों से निर्मित पतंजलि केश कांति तेल विद नेचुरल शैम्पू, एलोवेरा शैम्पू, एंटी डैंड्रफ शैम्पू और मिल्क प्रोटीन शैम्पू, जो बनाए आपके बालों को जड़ों से मजबूत। हेयर फॉल, बालों को जड़ों से मजबूत। हेयर फॉल